Hello. I'm
Hello.
talking on a microphone.
It seems alright, I think.
Okay. Oh, it shouldn't do, because it's not connected to me in any way.
Hello everyone, welcome to Changing Minds Through Gaming, where we chat about mental health and play video games at the same time. The hope is we will make it a more relaxed thing to talk about and help the conversation spread to more people and bring more awareness. This is episode 2 and I have Andy Pearson as my guest, who is also from Tape. If you haven't seen episode 1 yet, I'd highly recommend you go and check it out. That's with Steve Swindon of Tape. Tape is a community arts centre in Old Colwyn in North Wales. It's a wonderful place. Andy's a wonderful person, as you'll find out in this video. And we begin by talking about our necks. How else? Andy for some reason thinks that inverted controls are the way to go. I disagree. I'd also like to point out at this point that I am contractually obliged to be impartial to whose episode I prefer. So for both of you watching, Steve and Andy, you're both equal in my heart, okay? I love you both. But seriously, thank you to them both. Thank you for everybody at Tape for making this possible. And I hope you enjoy the video.
You're not moving your neck up, are you?
You're moving your head up, the part of your neck.
You're dropping your head back. Forward. I won't argue about most things, but I am definitely know which way my head moves back and forth. Around about PlayStation 2, they brought an inverted look. So there's obviously enough of us out there going, this is wrong. This is just wrong. But if I do, if I play games where it's a mouse, like a thing game, I have to do it the right way, the way you do it. I just can't do it the right way. There's an argument. God, it's been ages since I've played this game. Let me just get out in this one area because I don't like the fact that I'm stuck in an area that Steve got stuck in, and that's where I am. I can't move the orange, I can only move the blue, but unless, wait, where is it? So I've got to do it on to there, it's the only place I'll let me put a portal on. I just leave. Like Steve was stuck on a door was there, I was automatically thinking it was something else. There we go. Stuck on finding a door is what you were stuck on. I saw the door about 5 times, but it can't be that. Can't be that, there's a door there. Okay, so are you recording?
Yes.
Oh great, all of that. Steve, you're a fool, should have gone and done that. Right. Okay.
Alright, so I have conversations around mental health. And
Okay.
I wanted to start by asking if there's any experiences that you've had with mental health, not necessarily problems or difficulties, just it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, just some kind of maybe experience that you've had personally that you're willing to talk about. Or for example, it could be maybe stress related with work or something.
Yeah, I think that pretty much most people deal with a level of stress, whatever job they've got, and some people cope with it better than others, I would assume. But I think everyone kind of understands the idea of pressure and how to deal with it. I have anxiety. I deal with anxiety and depression. So that can manifest itself within a work environment in the sense that something that some people might be able to deal with quite easily can really knock me off my game. I don't know if I've got any solutions for that. Just kind of, I think my personal opinion on my mental health, which is all you can really be an expert on, is that knowing that that's your problem, knowing that that's how you deal with things, makes it easier to cope with.
So yeah, because obviously I've suffered with anxiety and depression as well, and I guess kind of what helped me was objectifying it, so just kind of realising that this is how I am, and you can kind of take steps to kind of try and tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you mean by it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, you can't really, if you're somebody who's an anxious person, then you're not going to be able to cure that anxiety, really. You are who you are.
Yeah.
You can just manage it better, and I think accepting the person you are rather than trying to change them is probably the best way to go about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not not anybody who can be an expert and say that's what you need to do, but that's the way I've learned how to kind of cope with my own anxiety and depression stuff, is just accept that I'm going to feel that way for a bit and not let it, because it can snowball. I think that's the problem, is that with mental health, is that your issue can snowball quite easily. So if you're feeling anxious and then you're anxious about being anxious, then you end up getting more and more and more anxious, and that's what I've kind of managed to do, and it's working so far. I'm doing really well in this game. I keep kind of just jumping in this one hole, coming out the same one. Oh, that's what I need to do. I need to press this button and it will give me a brick.
Will it?
But where did it put the brick?
Is that what the button does? It gives you a brick?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a portal, because I'm assuming that's where the bricks fall in. So a lot of this game is trying to work out how to get to the exits.
Figured that much out. Oh, there it is.
Oh, so it's dropping there. So if it's dropping there, can I get to that?
Do you? Are the blue lines trying to like guide you where to go as well? Is that what they're doing?
They're showing you where power is. So by so that's showing that by pressing that button, the power will go here, and that's where it's dropping the box. And now, because my other portal's there, it's dropped the box there for me. And I'll pick it up, put it on here, and now the doors will open. Oh no, that's created steps. So I can now get up here. I love this game so much. I've got to do this, and then
you got to time it.
Boom! Oh, look at that! I landed exactly where I landed.
It's kind of interesting with what you're saying about like being anxious, because like that's something I felt a lot, and kind of a lot of the anxiety I experience stems from that almost. Like instead of say the night before something important, instead of being anxious about what might happen, I'm being anxious because I feel like I should feel anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that way as well about stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that people who don't experience that don't understand is there's nothing worse than being in a point of view and you know what you're doing, but that doesn't help you get past it sometimes. So it's that thing where like if there's nothing worse than somebody who doesn't deal with anxiety going, well, why are you being anxious? There's nothing to be anxious about. It's like, well, that doesn't really help me, because I know that. I know I shouldn't be anxious about this thing, but I am. And I can't really undo the way my brain is wired. In the same way that there are people who've got anger issues and they go into an angry place for no reason at all, and you kind of go, well, it's like telling that person, don't be angry at this thing, it doesn't really matter. It's like the other end of that, isn't it? Yeah. You can either deal with your problems in an angry way or an anxious way or a depressed way, and it's all coping mechanisms with problems that come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've definitely had moments where I'm stressed because I'm stressed. Like the end result is also kind of creating itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I find a lot as well that you can kind of feel anxious or stressed for no proper reason, and then once you start kind of like detecting that that's the way you're feeling, it gets worse just because you know it's starting to feel that way. So yeah, like you said, it's kind of like a snowball effect once it starts. But
how do you think you how old are you now?
I'm 22.
22. So like at 22, how do you think your coping with anxiety has changed?
I think it's changed a lot in like the last couple of years, just because I've been able to kind of objectify it again and say this is what it is, and go into counselling and being able to talk about it more and just kind of talk through strategies. But at the same time, I'm kind of struggling to work out exactly what it is that would help me personally, because that's what I was going to ask you, is what kind of ways do you use to cope with like being anxious about being anxious? Because I mean, I guess for me it's kind of useful to kind of just distract myself as much as possible and try and do something and take my mind off it. But have you got any other things? you'd like to share?
I mean, I'm 40 this year, so a lot of it is time, kind of really adjusting to who you are.
Yeah.
And also things that happened in my life. I kind of was quite shy when I was younger, and then I did a couple of jobs, and sometimes when you deal with social anxiety, sometimes that affects your friendships and affects the way you do things, but sometimes being put in situations that you can't really control can be terrifying, but also can kind of break those fears that are within you. So when I worked in a bar for a while, and I was that was right when I was probably 15. I didn't work in behind the bar. I worked as a kitchen porter, and then moved my way up to bartender. But I was 15, 16 when I started that job. Very, very nervous, very unsure of myself. But then the other staff, especially the female staff, kind of refused for me to be shy and kind of broke me out of my shell. And that kind of got me to a point where it was like, oh, actually, even though I might think the things I say are inane and unimportant, some people don't mind me talking to them. So I don't have to be as anxious about it. There will be some people that'll be nice to me, and I can that kind of was a big progression for me and kind of helped me deal with it, even though I was still feeling anxious, still having those moments. Knowing there was enough people out in the world that didn't mind me, that kind of helped matters. And then as it's gone along, the coping is, like I said before, the coping is being aware that those things are happening and then trying to, on the inside, go, okay, it's happening, I'm going to let it happen, but I'm not going to let it completely eat away the entire day. I'm not going to let it snowball into an entire day of me being both stressed, depressed, and then going into a self kind of hate area, because that's what my progression is: being anxious, the anxiousness leading to depression, and the depression leading to me hating myself because I've allowed myself to get into this state. So it would be these 3 stages of what I would do. But then dealing with the anxiety at the beginning kind of stops me going down those other 2 paths, and it's been a fairly new thing. Tape helps a lot, being at tape and being around people who are very positive and understanding of those different parts of my personality. But yeah, does that make sense?
It does. So it's kind of, a lot of it is with experience as well, really, isn't it? Just exposing yourself to like certain experiences repeatedly, so you kind of get more used to them. And no idea what you just did.
I was like, I should wait until you finish your line before I do this.
The temptation was too much.
It was too much. I just kept standing on the precipice of jumping off into a portal.
How often do people around you, so I guess at tape, or friends, or just people in your life, have conversations around mental health? Is it kind of like a common thing, or is it not so common?
I think I'm in a unique position in the place that I work that it's probably spoken about more often. Not unless
I'm just annoyed at the inverted controls already.
Change it. You can change it.
I'll give it back to you and then you'll get annoyed.
I will pause while you change the controller. You're not helping me with my mental health. That's what I need to do. But that thing. Yeah, my friend really hates me because he can't do it the way I do it as well. And whenever we play a game, we've got to pass the patio to change it. So the question was, yeah. So in the place I work is a community arts charity. So we work with all people from the community, but we obviously have people come in who have mental health issues, and so it's probably spoken about more often than in the other workplace, just because there's more of an understanding and a sympathy for it, and of how it manifests. That said, it's probably not spoken about too much because we definitely don't judge or work with people specifically based on their needs. We just treat people as people, and so it's not ever a conversation in that sense. In in my personal life, it's probably not mentioned very much. There'll probably be people who, if they see, friends of mine, if they see this video, might be surprised that I have it because I don't really talk about it that openly. Not really out of shame. I mean, at one point I would have been embarrassed to tell people that that's how you feel, because that feeds into your anxiety, doesn't it? Really, the people knowing that you're anxious makes you more anxious. But more just out of not wanting to depress people, not kind of go, hey, we're having a good time, let me tell you about where I'm at. So I thought there are only certain people in my life that I would feel comfortable having that conversation with, without feeling like the conversation is going to go in a really dark place and we're not going to be able to get out of that conversation. But I've got a good handful of friends that I know I'm very comfortable having that conversation with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that if you tend to kind of people have those conversations with close friends only, it can be kind of hard to gauge how much of an issue mental health is altogether, and just how many people are affected by it and who's affected by it. So do you think there's kind of benefits from telling more people, or just, I guess it's difficult to kind of draw a line between like explaining everything and kind of touching on it lightly, because once you've touched on it lightly, you're almost obliged to go into it all, really, aren't you? So do you reckon there's a way around that? Or?
Well, I mean that's probably a personal thing as well. The idea of, and I'm terrible for that. I have a tendency of like over-explaining things, just in general, not just even about mental health. Feeling like, oh, you won't understand this unless I tell you every atom of it. I think some people, it would probably be comfortable to be able to find out a way to let people know that you have those anxieties without making it a big deal, so that they don't necessarily have to deal with it. Because that's the whole problem, is that if you fall over and you hurt your knee, somebody might want to come over and help you and know how to help you. So if you're saying you're in pain or you're having an anxious moment, people will naturally go, oh, I'm supposed to do something, and they don't have to do anything most of the time. Just to be understanding is all they've got to do.
Yeah.
So being able to have a comfortable way that if you feel like you need to tell somebody that you're anxious, without making it a big to-do, to be aware of this. This is what's happening. You don't have to do anything, but this is happening right now. If you can give me a little bit of space, or if you can just get, whatever you need from them, that'd be quite good. But I think that kind of looking at social cues and knowing the environments that might work out, because there's nothing worse than finding a moment to feel like you want to open up to somebody and tell them about your mental health, and them to react badly, not necessarily because they're not sympathetic, but they might just be a person who socially can't deal with that kind of that kind of heavy subject and isn't used to it, and just kind of goes, oh, that's that, and starts acting weird because they suddenly don't want to treat you like a human being. All of a sudden they want to treat you specially or differently, but that might make you more anxious, or make you revert and not want to interact with people more often, because you've had a bad experience of someone reacting to it. Have you dealt with that in your life, opening up to somebody and then dealing with it in a way you weren't happy with?
I guess maybe in a way, people have kind of, they almost get really touchy around the subject. It's more that they're afraid that I'd be offended by it, almost, if that makes sense. So
okay.
if they think that I'm kind of worried about opening up about stuff, and they get really touchy all of a sudden, that kind of makes me worse, because I wasn't worried in the first place. That's the reason I told them, but then it kind of ends up in the worst cycle.
And what do you mean by how do they react? Do they react as if they don't want to have the conversation, or they
react almost as if they don't want to speak about it too much, kind of closing themselves off a bit.
Okay. I mean, you have to. I mean, back to what we were saying before about trying to be more aware of your own. I don't know, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what the proper terms are, but the condition, or however you want to label your mental health issues. In the moment, it's hard to do that, but like afterwards, you might have to go, well, actually, maybe they are dealing with mental health themselves, and the reason they don't want to talk about it isn't that they're uncomfortable with you having an issue and being open enough to talk about it. It might be the fact they don't want to talk about their own issues, and there's a thing where like you being as comfortable with it might make them uncomfortable because they're like, oh wait, I don't want to talk about it because then I'll probably tell you about mine, and I've been ignoring mine, and I've been trying to, which is definitely a starting point for most people with mental health. Is if I ignore it, it'll go away. You know, I mean, I don't know those people you've spoken to, but it's sometimes healthy. Again, I don't know about this. I'm saying that I think it's healthy to sometimes analyse a bad experience and go, actually, I'm reading it from my point of view. Maybe in their point of view, it wasn't that way. Because a big anxiety of mine is me having an interaction with somebody and then going away and then me imagining what they actually thought of that interaction and going, oh no, I thought, I said something and they looked at me weird. Am I a weirdo? Am I being weird? And then I would overanalyze that forever. And then getting to that point and going, wait a minute, maybe I did say something silly, but they've probably not thought of it since. It was not a big deal for them in their day. People say weird things all the time and people just get over it. It's only me that's holding on to it. So I think it is healthy to sometimes look at bad experiences and go, maybe I'm probably most likely I'm putting more into it than actually happened, and nothing really happened in that scene.
Yeah, I get that a lot as well with analysing conversations and things once they've happened, and just sometimes you can look too far into it, can't you, and just end up going down the rabbit holes of certain thoughts, but then it was completely different to how, in their mind, to how the actual conversation went. So
and again, I think that's a good step forward. You can't always do it in the moment. That's what I've recently gotten good at, is knowing that now when I have a bad moment, I'm going to go and think about it later on and try to work out that I don't need to worry about that, because even if worst case scenario I'm right about what they think about me, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter about, not that other people's opinions don't matter, they do matter, but their opinion of you doesn't matter. If they've got a bad opinion of yourself, you have to kind of let that go. Not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to think you're a cool person or an interesting person, you've got to let it go. But I'm now starting to get better at, in the moment, by getting better at in the future, I've now started to focus on that moment of going, oh, I'm starting to have a negative thought, or I'm thinking that they're thinking something about me. They're not. I'm going to stop that before it even goes down to it. So I'm now at that point where I don't even need to analyse it later on and fix it later on. I can fix it in the moment or within the initial moments of feeling that anxiety.
Yeah. I'm going to give this back to you because I'm stuck.
What's going on with the controls? I didn't mean to jump down there. I was trying to get a good view of stuff. I have had motion sickness on this game before now. When you're really struggling to figure out where the box is or something, I just spin round then and go, oh, okay, stop for a minute, and getting motion sickness.
I noticed that when you're flying, because it's like you have to work out which direction you're facing, and you can't tell which way's up because the ceiling looks the same as the floor. And it's like
and as you fall, it'll suddenly spin you around the opposite way sometimes, and all of a sudden you change full direction. But it's definitely a game that messes with your equilibrium.
How much do you know about counselling and therapy options for mental health problems? So take anxiety as an example.
Well, there's medication for anxiety. There is therapy. I have thought I have done therapy. I didn't. It didn't work for me. But I have thought about trying it again recently, because I think sometimes things that are not right for you at one part in your life can be right for you on another part when you're ready for it. I'm not saying that I'm not an advocate for therapy. I think I'm definitely somebody who believes in that. Talking about stuff can definitely make you have realizations and understand parts of your anxiety, and more understanding of your issues definitely help control them better or understand them better, which is again about me talking about accepting parts of yourself rather than trying to shut them off or trying to control them. It's like any kind of addiction. If you were an alcoholic, for example, trying to just go, I'm not an alcoholic, is not going to stop you from being an alcoholic. Accepting that that's part of your makeup and then trying to manage it is a better way to go with it, rather than just going, well, the problem is drink, I'm going to stop drinking and I won't have a problem. And you go, well, you probably will have a problem. You find people who have drug misuse and those things, that when they come out of those things, they become addicted in something else. They become addicted to video games because they have an addictive personality, and they replace one vice with another that's more manageable, more socially acceptable. So I think understanding what you have helps you cope with it better than trying to just fix it. So therapy can work in that sense. I think that it can help. You can get it through the NHS, so there is options. There's paid for therapists. Is it something you've been interested in thinking about doing?
I've been to sessions before, cognitive behavioural ones, which are kind of one-on-one sessions, and like you said, it's kind of like you talk things through and try and understand what it is that's causing you problems or anxiety or whatever, and take steps to try and combat it. So I've gone through that, but I think I tried to do it through university and get help from them, and it took me about 6 months or so to get through from actually starting and saying, I want to have therapy, this is going to help me, to actually getting my first session. It was about 6 months plus, I think. So it was kind of like a long wait, and then I finished the sessions now, and you go into like, you can refer back again to this place in like, I guess like 9 months or something, and then you go into another waiting list once you've referred yourself. So that's, they're like a charity, so it's a free option. I know you can have paid ones as well.
Yeah.
But,
how did you find it?
I found it really good, and it's something that I'd like to do again, but I think the reason that they had such difficulty getting it is because they had such high demand for it. And that's the thing, is that I honestly don't think, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think many people know a huge amount about the benefits of counselling. I kind of feel like they're not too well informed in it, yet there's still a really high demand for it, so that kind of tells me that it's a big problem that kind of isn't being tackled.
As in advertising for people to know that it's
advertising and just education, I guess, about it, and explaining what it is and how it can help. Because really, like, waiting that long is too much of a hassle, really, and if people are in really like much more urgent situations of needing help, then obviously there's like hotlines and things you can go to, but if they needed someone to talk it through with, someone professional, and they wanted that, and they'd have to wait a few months, that's a really long time, isn't it? So
I mean, mine, when I went to therapy, it was a big long waiting period for it, which is, I don't know how the NHS that I went through for mine, and I don't know what their criteria is, because obviously if somebody's got suicidal tendencies and stuff like that, I would assume that they kind of jump the queue, because it can't be that thing where like, I'm going to harm myself, and then people say, well, we'll see you in 6 months and see if you've survived that. I would assume, but yeah, I think then the resources for it and the need for it are massively, there's a big disparity between that. I have no idea how to finish this level. I'm really struggling to remember how to do it.
You're going to be trapped here forever.
Oh, wait a minute, it's not open there. It's open. There we go. I have my Steve brain on. This thing to put on your brain, then that'll be fine.
You can't say like things like that about Steve, I might be watching.
It's okay, it just means you've got to go. I can't believe I didn't see this. There we go. That's all I need to do. I mean, what would you suggest? You say that we need more, obviously we need more, I guess, more therapists, more people being available for people. Do you think there could be an intermediate level, like some people who have basic training to be able to give the standard advice, or do you think that it always needs to be a professional psychologist to give that advice?
I think it kind of depends on how severe your problems are. So you'd have certain people who go straight to top level clinical therapists, but maybe some people would like somebody who's maybe not specifically trained in certain things, can just help them talk through things. So yeah, I think an intermediate level might help, or just more therapists in general, more funding and things.
Yeah. And what about when you said that it needs more awareness? What do you think for that? Do you think like that's a government ad scheme, or?
I think a big thing for it is education, because I mean I know things have probably changed by now. Because I was talking to Steve and he was saying things in schools have kind of changed a bit. So you've got people encouraging you to take breaks and things. So it's just kind of getting kids to be more self-aware about that kind of thing at an earlier age, so it's more normal. But I think having more education in schools and places like that to kind of make it a more normal thing that's discussed and help people understand it a bit better would help a lot.
Yeah, I think it's taking the stigma out of it as well, isn't it? I'm just going to knock volume on there, so because I know Wheatley's going to do a lot of talking now. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it being in schools and in America they have guidance counsellors, so they have people whose job it is to check on the students' mental well-being. I don't know if that's something that's been brought into this country. I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
But I think that would be a really good, especially with like bullying and things like that go on in school anyway. So having people who know where their students' mental well-being is as standard seems like a good move, and that could slowly move into, because then you have got that intermediate person who can help them, and then if they need more serious counselling, they can go straight to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that might be a good way to deal with it. I think it's whatever works, isn't it, really, when it comes to how you want to deal with your mental health, and having somebody to speak about it who's trained and has experienced it themselves. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, is that it kind of comes down to individual people and how they want to be treated and how the people around them want to be treated as well. So it just kind of, everything's very specific to the individual person of what they need. What do you kind of think about the stigma around mental health in society in general? Do you reckon there's quite a big stigma, a negative stigma, or in your experience, or do you think it's kind of...
I think the misunderstanding of mental health, and this is me talking as Andy, just from my own, this is not my professional opinion, this is not my work opinion, this is just from having dealt with mental health myself and have friends who have mental health issues and then working at tape, is that there is a fundamental misunderstanding of how somebody would be if they have a mental health issue. And so I think the average person assumes that if they know somebody with mental health, or if they're dealing with somebody with mental health, that it'll be a hassle, that they will be a hassle and that they've got to deal with it, and so that they will try to minimise those people in their lives because they don't want to have somebody, they think mental health is somebody going to be constantly coming up to them and being like, oh, I'm really sad and would you fix me being sad, or that's how they perceive it. Whereas the truth is, it's just people having problems dealing with certain social situations, or being able to cope emotionally with certain situations. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they are not somebody who's fun to be around, that they can just have normal pursuits and be into sports and do all those normal things that the normal quote-unquote people do, and that if they were just treated like a normal person and just, that's all people really are asking for most of the time, is just to be treated normally, but to be able to be open about the fact that they have those moments without it suddenly dragging the whole conversation down, or it needing to be a full debate about how they feel, but being able to just say it. People are allowed to say, I had a crap day, but if you say I had a crap day and part of that is my anxiety, that suddenly changes the conversation, which it shouldn't do. Like if you have a bad day, you have a bad day. Does it really matter within the conversation between two people why you've had a bad day or why that's been, why it's gone that way for you? I don't know how you address that because it's kind of it's people's what's the word I'm looking for? Preconceived ideas of what they think mental health is. I think if you ask somebody, if you went down, did like a Vox Pops and went around the street and asked people what they think mental health is, most people would say depression. I would assume would say that that's mental health. Some people would think it would be things more severe. They would think it would be schizophrenia and psychopaths and stuff like that, like because that's to do with mental health, and people would just go into these extreme versions of mental health and don't know that it's a real spectrum. But it's hard to get people to. I guess it's being around people. I always find that with working with people with Down syndrome and stuff, that people have a preconceived idea of what somebody with Down syndrome is instead of just meeting an individual and realising they're all individuals and that they have this disability, but they're just people and you have to meet them and that's how you'll know. And once you have them in your life, you don't think of them you think of them as people, you don't think of them as the disability, which a lot of people do. They seem to like to label people in general, label people by their ethnicity, label people based on their sexual preference, label people based on their gender, and mental health is the same. People like to label you, oh wait, you're depressed, that means I don't want to hang out with you because I don't want to hang around with the person who's depressed. And go, well, I'm not depressed every moment of the day. I can laugh, I can joke, we can go to the pub and have a pint.
So I guess it's kind of just opening up more conversations that kind of leads to people taking away labels or kind of adapting them so that they realise that it's not like if you're depressed, you're not depressed all the time. It's not a completely severe thing all the time, or it doesn't have to be. Yeah,
and I guess the problem is that part of the conversation is, I think people struggle with an honest conversation, and that goes way beyond mental health and goes way beyond all those isms, those racisms, homophobia, those things. People mostly want to have a laugh and a joke, and they don't want to have an honest conversation, and that's what makes them uncomfortable. I would much rather someone have a conversation with me where they say, I'm uncomfortable with this part of your depression. I don't really know how to deal with you when you're really depressed, so I'm no good for that. And me go, well, that's okay, I'll never put that on you. You don't have to do anything. And I've got friends who can deal with me when I'm really depressed, and I'll go to them, I won't come to you. I'd rather you tell me that honestly. I won't get offended and be like, what, you can't deal with me when I'm depressed? That's disgraceful, you're a horrible human being. I would never do that. People have their own limitations of what they can do, but I think it's the fear of the honest conversation that people struggle with more than the depression, more than the anxiety. It's the idea of, it's like eye contact. I struggle with eye contact. I remember someone once doing a cheers, doing like a little toast and clinking glasses, and as we clinked glasses I looked away and he was like, what are you doing? You should always make eye contact when you click glasses. And I'm like, well, I feel that quite awkward to do that, but it's the reason why I feel awkward with it is it's an honest moment. Like looking in somebody else's eyes, you realise you're having a conversation with somebody, you're having a moment with somebody, and that can be quite terrifying. And I think it's that moment of honesty. And like say, if you've had moments where you've been with friends and you've been like, I struggle with anxiety and this is how it manifests itself, it's an honest moment. It's you being very vulnerable and being very honest with somebody, and that's a bit they find uncomfortable. I think that's just a human thing, and I don't know what the fix is for that, but I think it is a big barrier of talking about mental health and having it being an open thing in society. Those things are going to kill you if you go through that red line, just so you know. I didn't do it. Oh yeah, well, sorry, you walked away from it. That thing will definitely kill you. No? In Portal 1 they shoot you when you go through them.
I think I dodged it, I don't know.
Okay.
So I guess with working at Tape you work with a lot of different people, and I guess a lot of people who are kind of open about their problems. So have you ever experienced people being discriminated because of mental health problems?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not just through Tape, not just people I've met through Tape thing in life. I think I'm quite a logical person, so I've tried to help people in the sense of like working out how some of those discriminations came about, because some of those discriminations happen because you put yourself in a position where you allow someone to discriminate against you. But yeah, I mean, it happens within jobs, because sometimes a job will ask you if you have got mental health issues, and people think that if you've got mental health issues that would make you a bad worker, which is inaccurate. Yeah. I would assume that it's getting better. I think that there is more awareness of than there used to be. There used to be none at all. Like, this conversation would not be going on 20 years ago, or not to my knowledge, it wouldn't have been going on. I think it's getting better in that sense. I guess the discrimination might be worse in the sense that because people are more open about it, there's more chance of people knowing you have a mental health issue. So employers can be more discriminate. You would never open up about that in a working environment in the past. So now, because it's got better, you're more likely to admit it, which might then lead to you being mistreated in your workplace from it. So I guess it's a double-edged sword in the sense that I think society is getting more open about it, but then that leads people who are not willing to accept it or don't want to research it. I mean, that's the other issue, isn't it? It's a lot to ask a person who doesn't have a mental health issue to somehow be educated about it, because that's the issue. And it's the same about, I do really see a parallel between mental health and other stigmas that people deal with, like when it comes to racism and homophobia and those things. I think it is very similar, because what it is I've got something that I deal with, and I'm kind of expecting the rest of society to understand a little bit about it, and the rest of society going, it's not my job to know about your mental health.
Yeah.
And then you trying to reassure them they don't need to be a doctorate at mental health to be beneficial for me. They just have to be patient, understanding. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to be learned about mental health. I'm just asking you to be aware of it. So I think it's better. Sorry, I talked over you then.
That's all right.
It's not acceptable for me to talk over you. What did you say, man?
I said that makes a lot of sense.
So I just basically talked over you, complimenting me. That was good, yeah. Oh dear, trolls.
So with places like Tape, how important do you think they are to, I guess, kind of tackle stigma around mental health, or just help people cope with mental health problems? Yeah,
I think what Tape does in a really subtle way, and I have been a beneficiary of this as well, as like hopefully helping other people, is that in a subtle way what we're doing is allowing people to be somewhere where they're not judged in any way for who they are, and by being in an environment where you can get your confidence up because you're being treated as a person and being spoken to on your interests, on who you are as a person, then you suddenly realise there's an environment where you can do that, and then that environment extends to the outer world beyond, outside of Tape. I think that's why, and I think it is important to have that space. It's most of your anxieties come from your own paranoias of what you think people think and what an environment goes, and to have a whole building and a whole group of staff that are going to, when you walk in, be happy to see you and be able to go and know who you are, it's a really subtle thing, and you couldn't fill out an application form for a bid for funding for that. You couldn't go, hey, the environment we want to create for people is a genuine, real social experience where when someone comes somewhere, they do their art, they do their training, they learn their skills, but it's an environment where they get treated as people. They'd be like, well, we don't care about that. We care about them getting a job. We care about them going to university. We care about that's what funders care about.
Yeah.
But for me, what Tape gives people is a genuine structure to build personal relationships that then help you in the outside world, which sounds really strange. It sounds like Tape's a prison place where you come and eventually you'll be trained to go into the real world. But the idea of feeling comfortable and going, wait a minute, people do treat me like a person. People do know who I am, know my worries, know the things that I want, know my goals. I am a worthwhile person, and when I go into the world, if I meet somebody and they don't give me that, it's my opportunity to say, well, I don't need to give them my time.
I agree.
Agree?
I mean, I kind of feel like community centres as a whole are kind of a way forward for society, because a lot of people have kind of become more antisocial. I mean, I'd only be guessing because I wasn't alive like 50 years ago or something, but
I meant to be bragging.
I guess I'd guess that communities were a lot more open and people would talk to each other a lot more, and it doesn't happen so much these days. So having places like this to go to provides that for people, and yeah, it just provides you with an opportunity to meet people and talk about everyday life, make friendships and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so. Well, we're talking about that. It was interesting. We went to a talk on cyberbullying, and one of the things that they noticed about why cyberbullying has become so prevalent and so painful for people is people have stopped doing the conversation. So when you're a child and you go, I think you've got a funny face, and you see that the kid kind of go, oh, your empathy kicks in. You go, well, I didn't really. Some people enjoy being mean, but then 90% of us see the meanness and go, oh, I didn't really want them to feel that way. Whereas via the internet, you can go, I think you've got a funny face, and the person reads it and they go, but you don't. The person being the bully doesn't have to deal with a person being sad, yeah. So they end up creating the lack of empathy, and then when they go out in the real world, they have no empathy, and so I think. Even though I've kind of got off social media recently, but I used to be a social media person, video games, online, and I know there's lots of people who have internet communities and they have, very meaningful relationships. But I do think that eye contact, being in a room with somebody is so important. I genuinely love playing video games like this more than playing video games online, because I like to be able to put a controller down and make a cup of tea and have a chat about stuff and see people and have a conversation with them, because so much of conversation is a smile on someone's face, someone recognising and noting those things. So yeah, I think it is good to have social spaces that people can come to and get those things. Do you think that being at Tape and having those personal relationships with people at Tape, not just staff members but other members of groups that you've been involved with, have given you more confidence, but also skills that you can go out into an ordinary situation and meet new people? Definitely both, yeah. It's definitely improved my confidence in just talking to people in general, because I mean, when I first came last summer, I'd finished with uni and hadn't really made many friends there, and just struggled interacting, on a daily basis. And coming here is kind of like, it was kind of refreshing in a way, because it kind of resets everything, and you can kind of like, I think my batteries have just died. Oh, sorry, I thought them switched off.
But yeah, it's helped a lot, and just kind of, it's more down to like finding people who you have stuff in common with here, because obviously I enjoy the stuff we do here, like editing and things like that, and being able to feel like you fit in somewhere kind of gives you confidence to go somewhere else and say, well, if everything goes wrong in this social situation that I have here in this new place, I can always go back to tape and have a place there for me. So it's just about, it's like a stepping stone in a way, like something you can stand on and say, I've got this. It's an experience to draw from that you can kind of, it's definitely helped for sure.
No, I mean, that's the greatest thing, but I think it is, it's nice to know that it works, because it's something that's kind of become, it's kind of organic with the people that work at Tape. We kind of don't believe in that kind of treating everyone the same. We believe in treating people the same and talking to people, and that's just part of our makeup as people that work at Tape. But it's nice to know that it's having a positive effect besides the positive effect that just being nice makes you feel nice. Being a nice person, speaking to the people and hearing what they've got to say and listening to them is a positive thing for the person listening as much as the person being listened to. So it's beneficial for us to live that way, but it's good to know that it is having a good effect on your mental health and helping you outside of that. So don't know what the right response for that. I was going to say thank you, but no, I don't know what I'm thanking you for. Thank you for being better out in the world from having been at Tape. But yeah, it's good. It's good to know.
And thank you for doing your job at Tape and helping people become better as well.
No, it's all. Yeah.
It's a positive cycle. It works both ways.
It works both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good though. I mean,
if you were a bad person, I would treat you as nicely as you are.
You would. You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Okay, I thought you said you would.
I wouldn't treat you. No, sorry. Let's do that again. And if you're a terrible person, I wouldn't treat you as nicely as I'm treating you now. So it's partly it's part of you. The way you are makes people. I think you have a very calm way you talk, and you're very articulate about your anxieties and the way you talk about it. And you're very welcoming. It's a very nice quality. So you shouldn't feel those anxieties. I know I've just done the thing that I told people they shouldn't do, but you shouldn't have those anxieties because you're a very warm person who listens to people and is very helpful with other people who you've taught people how to edit at Tape. Work with John and Chloe on the documentary, which is still happening, and we are still going to do it. I'm going to push forward with that. So yes, you should be proud of yourself. So it's nice for you to thank Tape, but you should be proud of yourself for you're moving forward.
Thank you.
So I thought I'm just going to put my phone on real quick to tell her what's going on so she isn't, because otherwise I'll just go to a very mad wife. And even though I like you a lot, Niall, I'm not willing to lose my wife over this interview.
This is a commitment Andy's willing to take to...
Yeah, the lengths that I will go to help people is to lose my marriage. Someone just came to the door and went, "What?" Okay.
All right. It's a short answer question.
Okay.
So, are you confident that the whole situation around mental health will improve in society going forward?
I'm quite positive about that. I think everything gets better. I mean, I think everything still has a long way to come when it comes to the progression of everything. Like say, I always use the example of racism and homophobia. It's the same thing. It's isms. It's people being either uncomfortable or fearful of difference. But society always keeps getting better. I mean, like you look at something like race. There's loads still to happen with racism and to kind of tackle that. But if you think about where we were, 20 years ago, it's definitely better than it was, even though it's still rubbish. And I think that in 10, 20 years' time, mental health will still have its issues, but it'll definitely be a lot further along than it is now. So I think we're always moving forward. I think working with councils and stuff, we've definitely seen a big movement of how councils deal with mental health, and normally they're the guinea pigs of companies being better at things. So it normally goes through the councils, and when the councils become more educated and do workshops on mental health and working out how managers deal with staff that have got mental health issues, that normally moves forward into the private sector and ends up moving better there. And it is a lot better in councils than it used to be.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
So yeah, hopefully everything will move in the right direction. Just keep going.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're
Thank
an
you very
ambassador for it.
Sorry.
Well, wait, you're an ambassador for mental health. So hopefully, as you get older, you might get into a position where you can genuinely help that. You're already doing it with these videos.